All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Parenting with Presence, Strengthening the Father-Son and Mother-Son Bond in the Teen Years. We are so excited that you're here with us tonight. We'd love for you to keep your cameras on if you are able so we can see your faces and feel more connected. Please also make sure your microphones are muted during this session so that everyone can hear clearly unless you're talking. Also, if you can do me a favor and make sure your first and last name is listed so that we can give you credit for the session, that would be great. And the session evaluation will be shared in the chat. So remember to fill that out before we leave tonight. Now, it is my honor to introduce our speaker for tonight. Dedrick is the CEO of the Sims Poyola Foundation, leading efforts to improve outcomes for young urban males through school design, educator training, and advocacy. With nearly 20 years of experience as a teacher, principal, and educational leader, he is also published author and licensed superintendent. Dedrick continues to train educators nationwide while serving on multiple boards and advisory councils. Families, please join me in welcoming Dedrick Sims.
Greetings, people. Greetings, greetings. Listen, I know you guys are going to be required to be on the camera, but the irony is I'm going to be off the camera. I am in a location where my signal is crazy, and the only way I can get this thing to work is to be off of camera. So if that's okay with you, I get a chance to see your beautiful faces because I do want to interact with you. For those of you who have ever been a part of one of my presentations, I'm calling on people, I'm having conversations with you. So do me a favor, raise your hand if you've been part of one of my presentations before. Yep, yep, two, three. Let me see. Okay, got it, got it, got it. Yep. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And typically we have a really good time. We have a really good discussion. And so I'm looking forward to tonight's discussion being a good discussion as well. I do want to open up with one question. All right. And that question is, there's so much going on right now in the world that you turn the news on or anything that, some of you may feel really good about it. Some of you may not feel really good about it. But what is one good thing that's happening in your life right now? I want you to take about 30 seconds to reflect on, one good thing that's happening in your life because we all know life be lifing, right? And so what's one good thing that's going on in your life right now? When you think about that, drop that in the chat for me. Put it in the chat. I'm going to pull up the chat myself and be able to look at it. Hello, Norma. Hello, Renee. Good, good. Son got a good Pell Grant and scholarships. Absolutely. Congratulations, Holly. In school working towards my dreams. Monica, congratulations. I just learned how to make sourdough. All right. Is it Chesna? I don't want to mess that up. Is it Chesna? Can you come off of mute real quick, Chesna, and just say yes or no? Is it Chesna? Is it Cheesno? Talk to me about it.
She said yes in the chat. She said yes,
Oh, okay,
absolutely.
got it. Sorry. Sorry. I quit reading and started looking at her face. Son got into National Honor Society, connecting more with my son lately. Family is spending more time together at Wardo, praying and reading the Bible, working together. Eduardo, I've been really into the Bible lately. I've been really studying, using commentary and everything. And so I am right there with you, brother. Um, who is that saying that our marriage is in a great place? And so is the kid. Yeah, man. I, Jeremiah, got it. Letting go, giving up, giving it all up to God, not sick, healthy, over COVID. Good for you, Renaya, if I'm pronouncing that right. Um, both boys doing good in school. Come on, keep the good stuff happening. Keep the good stuff coming, because Lord knows we hear the bad stuff. Keep the good stuff coming. As a single mom doing everything on my own, My son got Student of the Month as a great leader and helping other kids with their work made me so proud. Congratulations, Zoom user. That's what it says, Zoom user. That's a unique name, but I see your face though. Or at least I see the top of your face anyway. All right, good stuff, good stuff. Listen, keep putting the good stuff in, right? We gotta lift each other up, and more important, you gotta lift yourself up. Sometimes you just gotta encourage yourself and make yourself feel good about what's going on because there's so much going on. Let me share my good stuff. So I am listen, there has been some bad stuff that's happened. There has. But let me tell you about the good stuff. So one good thing that I'm really super proud of is that in a week I will be leaving for Harvard for a month. I got accepted into Harvard's Senior Executive Fellowship, and that's with leaders from all over the world to understand like systems leadership. And so I'm super excited. Thank you, Monica. I'm super excited about that. Now, what gives me anxiety is that I'm going to be gone for 1 month. I'm going to be gone from my team from 1 month, and they are encouraging us to not even be, in contact with our team because of because of the load, because of everything that's happening. And so, while I'm excited on one hand, I'm anxious on the other hand, and so, but in the end, I just have to um, trust that, God will have things line up the way it's supposed to be. So, are y'all ready for tonight? Are y'all ready for tonight? All right. All right. I don't know how much time we're gonna spend together. It could be an hour, it could be 10 minutes, it could be 2 hours. But we're gonna go through this conversation about parenting with presence. And so I'm gonna share my slide and we will get started here. And again, I apologize for not being on the screen, but I want to make sure that you're able to get through the presentation. So the first thing is that we're going to parenting with presence, strengthening the father-son and mother-son bond in the teen years. How many of you know the teen years is a really tough time for boys? I mean, it's a tough time for girls too, but it is a really tough time for boys. And if you have a teenager right now, give me a thumbs up in the chat or something, and you know how tough that and confusing this part of their life could be, right? It's almost if they have no clue how to put their shirts on, how to think, how to do anything. And I got to tell you that a large part of that has to do with this hormone that you and I've talked about before in the past called testosterone. Like it does that. Like testosterone impacts boys, impacts men in very different ways in very different stages of our lives. And so tonight we're going to talk about bonding with your teen, and in this case, your son during those times. So good evening, everyone. I really appreciate you taking time to be here. Listen, before we get into the content, I want to set a clear frame for how we're going to use this time together. Tonight is not about fixing your son. It's not. It is also not about well, it's about understanding his experience. So this workshop is about understanding what your son is experiencing in a relationship with you, right? Because most of what we think about or interpret as behavior in teenage boys is actually a response. How many of you have ever heard that behavior itself is a language? Raise your hand if you heard that. Behavior itself is a language. We do it ourselves, right? As adults. I mean, if you're in any kind of relationship or, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship, your behavior is a language all within itself, whether you're being passive aggressive or whether you're being loving or whether you're being attentive or whether you are ignoring. I mean, that's a language all in itself. And you're hoping that the people that you are with, investing time with, understands your language. Because most of what we interpret as behavior in teenage boys is actually a response. I need you to hear me now. It's a response. It's a response into how they think that they're being seen by you. It's a response to how they think that they're being corrected by you. And it's a response to whether their relationship with you feels safe, whether it feels predictable, or whether it feels worth engaging in. Yep, I'm going to say that, right? Because as parents, we think that we are the safest person in this boy's life, and you may not be. Oh, I'm gonna let that sit for a minute because that's gonna step on some people's toe. I'm gonna let that sit for a minute. You may not be the safest person in your son's life. And it's not because you are trying to be nefarious or you're trying not to be safe, but you may not be the safest person in this guy's life because of the way you respond and interact with him. Check yourself. What is your relationship like with your son? Like, be honest. You got to tell me. You got to put no thumbs up. You got to write it down. What is your relationship with your son? Are you proud of that relationship? Do you feel like it's a healthy relationship, or do you know that there's work for you to do? And in the teenage years, those relationships get more and more complicated because of this thing called testosterone, because of this thing, because of society saying that we are ushering them into manhood and they're trying to find that space. And so that's why I say tonight is not about fixing your son, it's about understanding his experience. And so tonight, we're going to slow that down a little bit. We're going to look at what's happening underneath the behavior. And we're going to look at how our responses, your responses, shape whether your sons move closer or if they move further away. Now, I want to start by just kind of hearing from you. In the chat, I want you to answer this question. Listen to the question. When your son pulls away, if he shuts down or if he disengages, what do you assume is happening? I'll say it again. If your son shuts down, pulls away, or he disengages, what do you think is happening? And I'm gonna come out of this for a second so I can read your chats. What do you think is happening? Overwhelmed, upset, something's wrong, trying to process what's going on. He doesn't want to talk to me. Um, overwhelmed, stressed. I assume he is having big feelings and needs some time to process. Negative self-talk. I don't know. Overwhelmed, embarrassed, upset about something, defense mode, upset. Now, he's internalized his emotions and now in a mental space that is guarded. Something is wrong with him. Someone is being mean to him. Jerry said, could be a lot of things. He's a teenager. Listen, I want you to look at the responses that you put in the chat. Most of what you are naming are interpretations, hear me now, interpretations of behavior. There are interpretations of behavior. Some of you are naming what the person might be actually experiencing. And that's the gap. That's the gap. You're naming behaviors and not necessarily what they are experiencing. And that is the gap between what we assume and what they experience. And that's where the disconnection actually begins. Now let's talk about this gap. At this stage, your son is trying to answer a few questions, right? There are three questions I'm always thinking that they're trying to answer. And the conversation I've had with boys all over the country, this is what they're saying. One, who am I? How am I seen? And what happens when I show up as my real self? Who am I? How am I seen? And what happens when I show up as myself? And those answers are not being shaped in isolation, parents. They're actually being shaped in real-time interactions with you. Behavior is misinterpreted. The experience is missed When when he pulls away, why couldn't he be embarrassed? Why couldn't he feel disrespected? See, we try to interpret the behavior as something outside of ourselves, but that's where the gap and the disconnection begins. Let's talk about identity formation. Who am I? How am I seen? And what happens when I show up? Teenage boys are highly aware of how we interpret them. You can tell by the way they interact in school, they interact with us. Like they have a sense of how we interpret them. Not just what we say, but how quickly we make assumptions, the tone that we use, and whether we ask before we correct. Now, as someone who has been a superintendent, someone who's been a teacher or principal, 85 to 90% of the reason why boys get in trouble in school is because of the assumptions we make about their tone and also how we respond in terms of, are we asking them questions before we correct them? A lot of us don't know how to get out of our own way. That we were raised a certain way. We were raised to have respect. We were raised to have this hierarchical conversation and relationship that I'm the parent and you're the son, and that you're supposed to do exactly what I say, and my interpretation of you is correct. But that is a real live human dude on the other side of you, and that deserves respect. That deserves consideration. When it doesn't happen, they're tracking whether they are being understood or if they are being judged. Now, as they get older, right, boys become more aware of this emotional risk. Things like embarrassment, like I said, rejection, being corrected in ways that feels exposing. But when they pull back, it's not because they don't care, it's because they are protecting themselves. They're protecting themselves. Now, I got to tell you, when I thought about that thought of protecting themselves, that didn't come out of nowhere. At the Sims Fellow Foundation, we have worked with over 18,000 boys across the country over the last 12 years. And we don't just work with them for the sake of work with them. We ask them questions. We have focus groups. We get vulnerable with them because in order for any kind of intervention or any kind of program to work, you got to understand your audience. How many of you are speakers? How many of you have spoken to people before in a crowd? And you know that one of the first rules of speaking is to understand your audience. So they are protecting themselves. So the withdrawal, I want you to think about this. I want you to internalize this for a minute. Maybe their withdrawal is protection. Think about the things you put in the chat earlier about when they withdraw, what's happening to them. You named the behavior, but not the experience. Maybe they are protecting themselves. Now listen, I know this is parents' challenge, and I know that you're supposed to be hearing me to think about yourself as a parent and your relationship with boys. But let me tell you what else should be happening right now. If you're not doing this, you're missing it.
Hmm.
You should become better. Right now, you should be becoming better advocates for your own son. If he is in school or if he is in a program, then this information can also apply to their teachers. You are becoming better advocates for your son. Think about the power you have if you can go to a teacher and say, look, if Johnny withdraws, maybe he's embarrassed. That withdrawal is his protection. How much more powerful would you be if you got that teacher to say, you know what, instead of doing this, he typically withdraws for protection. Ask him, how's he feeling? What's causing this? Instead of automatically assuming it's disrespect or something else. So when you see withdrawal, when you see silence, when you see short answers, you are not just seeing behavior, you are seeing a response to how that relationship feels in that moment. Now, put yourself in their shoes. Some of you may have gotten into an argument today. Some of you may have felt some sort of way with somebody today, and you withdrew. You got quiet. You said, okay, you will see. I'm not going to say anything. Like all the things that indicate that you are having an experience at that moment. That relationship doesn't feel safe at that moment. So why can't he feel that way? Ask his teacher, why can't he feel that way? Humanity doesn't stop at any age. I'll say it again. Humanity does not stop at any age. Feelings are hurt whether you are 14 or 44. So withdrawal can be his moments of safety. Now, what I want to talk about is this pattern that we talk about at Sims Failure Foundation. It's called the Sims framework. And the Sims framework is there on your screen, and it says that there are that there are actually five, right? There are five pieces to this pattern. The first is belief. What do you believe about a thing? What do you believe about a person? What do you believe about an experience? And then there's structure. Structure means what structures are in place to reflect your beliefs, right? Let me give you a real example. If you think that your son is if you think that his life will be better off for reading because he reads, then wouldn't one of the structures that you have available for him would be books or literary materials for him to actually read, if that's your belief? And the next thing is practice. What opportunities are you giving him to practice reading? And then there's an outcome. And that outcome should reflect your beliefs, right? And if all those things are in alignment, then you have predictability. So I wanted to show you this pattern, all right, of how this consistently shows up in relationships. And it's not because parents don't care, but because of how the interaction is structured. Now let's talk about belief. Let's start with belief. If he believe that, if you believe that he is being disrespectful, like go back to what we put in the chat earlier. I believe he is being disrespectful. Then your structures are going to your structure, which will be your response, is going to reflect that. How do you deal with disrespect in general? If you think that he is testing you, right? Or if you think that he needs to toughen up, then those beliefs shape how we enter into the interaction, which is the structure. And here's the truth. Unless you are a parent that talks to your son all the time and talks to your kids all the time, most conversations happens when something is wrong. I'm gonna say it again. Most conversations happen when something is wrong, and especially in those teenage years when they're just a little bit awkward. Most conversations happen when something is wrong. It happens when correction is needed. It happens when a behavior has crossed the line. Now, this is key for you, for those of you who are saying, you know what, I'm going to embrace this idea that I'm becoming a better advocate for my son for school. Because when you get a call, the times you get a call from school, if they're not positive, it's because correction is needed or a behavior has crossed the line, right? But this is an opportunity for you to have conversations with that teacher or that program leader or whatever program that they're in to increase their capacity and knowledge to be able to work with your kid. So interaction becomes tied to discipline, right? If most conversations happen when correction is needed, if most conversations happen when behavior has crossed the line, then the interaction becomes tied to discipline. I hope that makes sense. It becomes tied to discipline. And then there's practice. If all that's true, then we move quickly to correction first. I got to get him right. Can't be testing me. Can't be disrespecting me. You need to get your mind right. What's wrong with you? And then your tone escalates. And then we try to regain as parents, and I've been guilty of this, right? We try to gain control of the moment. Now, this may not be you. I may be talking to the wrong crowd, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say this. Most parents parent the way they were parented. Oh, did I lose somebody? Most parents parent the way they were parented. It is hard to be what you can't see. So if we have this practice of if we've seen moving to correction as first, or tone escalates, or our parents try to regain control of the moment, then that's what we typically do unconsciously. I can't tell you how many times I said I didn't want to react the way my mom did, and I found myself reacting the way my mom did.
Hmm.
And then the outcome, if all that's true, then the outcome is very predictable, right? The kid shuts down, he gets defensive, disengages, and then we interpret that as more disrespect. It's a cycle. We interpret it as more and more disrespect. But I want to pause for a second and ask a question. But what are we actually seeing? What are we actually seeing? And I want you to elevate this beyond the relationship with your son, and I want you to elevate this with other people. What are we actually seeing? We are actually seeing the result of the interaction itself. How many of you have make it a practice to reflect on some difficult moment or conversation that you've had with your son, and you are okay with going back to your son saying that I got that wrong. I got that wrong. I could have handled that differently.
Hmm.
And how does that make you feel when you're that vulnerable?
I
Put it
think
in the chat. Put it in the chat. How does it make you feel for those of you who actually get that vulnerable? I got to tell you, while you're doing that, the first time I did it, it was a humbling experience for me because the way I grew up that kids were supposed to be seen and not heard, and that what mama said is what happens. And when I found myself getting into unnecessary arguments with my daughters, and I had to humble myself because at the end of the day, I really want to understand the interaction. I want to understand the experience, and I don't want to bully her into the. I don't want to bully her into it. And I didn't want to bully my son before he got killed. I lost my son, but I didn't want to bully my son into an experience without understanding the reason for his reaction. Because at the end of the day, like I mentioned before, that's a human being on the other side of this conversation. Let me look in the chat for a second. Give me a minute. Vulnerable and humble. Glad I could model differently. Humility is freedom. Humble. Very humbling. Very humbling. Showing it is hard and scared. Being vulnerable with the kids mean better reflection, ability to talk to things. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a follow-up question. So for those of you who did this and you say you're humbled and you're scared and those things, you know, did it make your relationships better, or did you feel like you lost a bit of authority? Put that in the chat too. Did it make your relationships better? Did you walk away feeling better as a parent, or did you walk away feeling like you had conceded? Makes us stronger, Jenny says. Terry says, I feel better. Lori says better. Better as a parent. Now, this doesn't mean, let me clear this up. This doesn't mean that you're becoming their pal, their buddy, their friend, right? I mean, what it means is that that you are respecting who they are as a human being. It makes relationship better because you're able to, there you go, respect their feeling. Absolutely. So we're going to pause here for a second and go into a breakout room. We're going to pause here. We're going to go into a breakout room for about 6 minutes. I'm going to put my timer on. But here's what I want you to think about. Let me come out of this stop share. Here's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about a recent conflict, and maybe some of you got to write this down, but I want you to think about a recent conflict or a moment of tension with your son. Is there anybody here that does not have sons? Like, I'm making the assumption that everybody has a boy here. Is there anyone here that does not have a young man? All right, cool. So think about a recent conflict or a moment of tension you had with your son. Here's the question for you to answer and take into the chat. What did you, I mean, the breakout room, what did you believe was happening? Six boys, Holly. There we go. Holly says she has some boys to share if anyone needs any. Think about what did you believe was happening? And what might have been the experience? What might he have been experiencing in that moment? I repeat it again. I want you to think about a time that you had recent conflict or moment of tension with your son. What did you believe was happening? And also, just as importantly, what might he have experienced in that moment? Now, I just want you to talk through it. No need to resolve it. I'm going to put you in random breakout rooms. And so you guys have had the conversation. You've gone in the break room. I wasn't asking you to solve anything, right? This is not the 15 minutes to or the 8 minutes to solve anything. But I want you to come off mute and let's have a conversation. Um, what did you notice? Like what tends to come up? Like, what did you believe that was happening? What did you believe they were experiencing? And what do you think the gap was? So let's just come off mute. You can popcorn. You can come off at any time and just have a conversation with us about what you talked about. I would love to learn from you, and others would love to learn from you too.
Well, I think that the one thing that my breakout room and I had in common is that whatever it is that our children are going through, and we feel that we cannot, get them out of the pain, or if we somehow feel that we are the reason for that pain, it's hard on us as parents who love our children, and we want to be the reason that they're happy and not the reason that they're sad. But sometimes, it just, because we're the parents and because we love our children, we do have to be the ones that cause them, unfortunately, a little bit of sadness by saying no to some of their requests.
Okay. Did you talk about what they may have been like, what he may be experiencing? Um,
We actually did. It boiled. It almost seemed like it was a different situation, but with the same that the child did not get what they wanted, and it made them withdraw. And that's what we brought up about how you said something about withdrawing is their protection. But we all agreed that it wasn't a I want it now in a spoiled way. It's just this phase in life, and one was a dog, one was a boxing tournament, the other one was a car. It, Reasonable things that a child would want at this age, but then as parents, things are, can't always do what's requested, and as parents, we want to fix that.
that is so in true. That's so true, Enrique. And when you're in those moments, what does the conversation look like from you to him or to them when you are thinking about what they're experiencing?
Well, for me, like I brought up last night's conversation, I was more trying to reason. It wasn't an argument. It was more of a withdrawal, reason, and then we both kind of looked at each other and didn't say anything. So my my tactic was trying to reason. His tactic was, I'm not trying to hear this right now. I kind of understand, but it's not making me feel any better, Dad. That's kind of what I got from the conversation.
Oh, I wish he would have said that. I wish he would have said that. If your son said something like that, like I hear you, but I'm really not trying to feel it right now because it's hurting. Like that's ultimate conversation. I wish he would have said that.
Well, he said it with his eyes. I kind of know the guy. He's 19, and we've been working on our communication, and it's God sent. So, you know, I appreciate you saying that.
So for the benefit of other parents who are on the line, and I'm loving this because this is very rich. And I say I'm loving this because as men, like we are not as verbose as women. And there's a whole workshop about that, right? That I did, right? We're not as verbose, but there is such a thing called bridge brains. Now listen, I'm about to give you guys some free game. Like this, I'm about to tell Deborah, this is not even part of this workshop, but she know how I get down. I have one continuous thought that men are not as verbose as women. The way we compartmentalize experiences typically falls into the two hemispheres of the brain. We're either very emotive or we shut down, or we shut down. When I started a school, I've opened up 3 schools around the country, and one of the things that we do at our schools, and I've talked to teachers about, is that when you get into an altercation or a moment of tension or conflict with a boy, the worst thing you can do is challenge him. Oh, the worst thing you do is challenge him. Because when you challenge him, then especially in front of other boys or people in the classroom, then you're in for a fight. Can you hear me? Because somebody asked that they lose the speaker. Can you hear me? All right. Then you're in for a
I
fight.
hear you now.
And so what I tell the teachers and tell schools that you got to give him 5 to 6 minutes to get out of the emotive part of his brain into the logical space of his brain. Now there are boys that we call bridge brain. And that means that they are just as verbose and they are just as linguistic as girls. Girls tend to be more linguistic. The verbal center and the linguistic center forms a lot quicker because of estrogen. But testosterone causes this divide between emotive and also reasoning. It's one of the reasons why we tend to lose a lot of arguments against women. You can laugh about that. That we tend to lose a lot of arguments because by the time we have thought about it and gone through our emotive process, we come back and say, "Hey, baby, I thought about what we talked about, and I could have said that better because we've had time to think about it." And if any of you are teachers or you work in the education field or and your parents, sometimes if you have the right relationship with your boy, they'll come back after some sort of argument sometimes, and then they'll do something that indicate that they've thought about it. And that's the impact of testosterone. And those are the things that no one teaches you, right? But those are the things that I teach and that we teach. So, Enrique, thank you for that. Anybody else want to elaborate on the conversation they had in their groups about a moment of tension or conflict you had with your son and what you believe was happening and what they may have been experiencing?
I had I had a moment when we were talking about colleges and my husband said his opinion about a college and then he left the room, and when he left the room I said, I don't know that I agree with that. I think this. And then when my husband came back, my son tattled on me and said, when you left, mom said she disagreed with you. And I feel like he thought I was disrespecting his dad. And so then I felt like I lost respect from him because he was tattling on me.
How old is your son?
He's 17.
He's 17 years old. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I can't read into that one. I don't know what I don't know the dynamics between you three. He could have been playing, he could have been, trying to start something. Uh, where did it go?
I just said, I just said no. I just said that, I restated my opinion with his father there. And it wasn't in direct conflict with what my husband had said. So it was just a little bit different. Um, but I thought that it was interesting that he felt like he needed to tell my dad or his dad, my husband, that I had said that.
Did you ask him why he said that?
No, I didn't.
How long ago was this?
Like 4 nights ago.
You should ask him. It's still within the window.
Yeah.
You should ask him. Say, listen,
Okay.
4 nights ago, can you tell me why you said that? You know,
Yeah.
it's best to hear from him. All right, cool. So we'll continue. Let me get the unless someone else is just burning the share. Okay, cool. All right. So let's just get back into this. All right. So I want to kind of end this by talking about parent dynamics, right? And I want to separate something out here because it shows up differently across relationships. We're going to talk about father-son relationships versus son-mother relationships a little bit, Holly. So when I think about father-son relationships, there's often this focus. Let me get my screen here together. There's often this focus on strength between a father and a son. How strong are you? That's mentally, physically, what are you crying for? Emotionally, like it's about strength and projecting strength. It's also about discipline. Like, are you doing the right things to get to point B, right? Whether that's are you doing the right things to, you know, uh, to get the right career, to take care of your family, to grow, to get strong, and then and then it's also about expectations and all of these things matter, right? But when these things show up without relationship, then the message, and this is the danger, uh, guys, I need you to hear this. And this is the danger. When these kind of things show up without relationship, then the message becomes that I am valued when I perform. I'm gonna say it again. I am valued when I perform. That's the risk of the typical father-son relationship because it tends to be about strength and about discipline. And the risk is that I am valued when I perform. When I don't perform, you don't value me. And that is the benefit of having these deep conversations, these emotive conversations that's less about performance and more about humanity. That is a full human being on the other side of you. And this is the risk for the men. Now, I'm not letting ladies off the hook. In a mother-son relationship, then the relationship is typically about care. It's about protection. It's about guidance, like even a different kind of guidance than what the father would give. Different kind of guidance, but guidance is there. So, and those things are also important, right? But but when the threat or the focus becomes over directive, do this, do that, this is what you got to do, then the message can become, listen, ladies, I am not trusted to figure things out. Have you ever heard a father say, let him figure it out? He's a boy. Let him bump his head. It's the direct opposite because mothers tend to have this nurturing relationship, care, protection, guidance. And the message tends to become, I'm not trusted to figure it out. Now, in both cases, the risk is the same. Hear me when I say this. In both cases, the risk is the same. How are they the same, Dr. Sims? I'm glad you asked. Because in both cases, the relationship becomes conditional. Conditional on performance or conditional on guidance. Or I'm not trusted to figure it out for myself. And when any relationship becomes conditional, people just adjust how much of themselves they bring into the relationship. If it's conditional for you to feel a certain way about me, I'm going to adjust how much I bring into the relationship because it's not an unconditional relationship. Now, I know that that sounds more like a romantic relationship or relationship that has nothing to do with being a father or a mother or a son, but I need you to ground our conversation in humanity. Ground it in humanity. I used to tell teachers all the time that just because a kid shows up in your classroom on Monday morning, it doesn't mean that they show up with only your homework in their backpacks. They show up with what's going on at home. They show up with the business loan not being received by a parent who's looking for a business. They show up with maybe lights being turned off or don't have the ability to eat. They show up with all of those social ills, ILLS, in their backpack. They show up with more in their backpack than just your homework. And listen, and this is free information. This is free, another free nugget. Education is a social industry that easily adopts social ills, ILLS. It is hard to keep out of the classroom what's happening in society, which is one of the reasons why you see schools impacted by what's happening in society, whether it's immigration or racism or whatever it is, right? It tends to spill over into the classroom. Now, guess what? That is the same truth with family. Oh, I'll say it again. I'll say it again. That is the same truth with family. That is a whole human being. And when those relationships feel conditional, they adjust how much they bring into the relationship. Now, I want to make this practical. Let's ask a question. And I want you to think about this as we talk about it. Your son is giving one word answers and avoiding conversation, right? A common response is typically, "Why are you acting like this?" Let me see all of y'all. A common response is, "Why are you acting like this?" But a different response could be, "I notice you've been quiet, and I'm here to have a conversation when you're ready." Mm, I'm seeing your faces. I'm watching you. If you can't see mine, but I'm seeing your faces. How many of you did that feel wrong to? I noticed you've been quiet, but I'm here for you when you are ready after they're giving you one word answers or avoiding conversations with you. How many of you have that kind of patience to say, "I notice you've been quiet. I'm here when you're ready."
I gotta admit, I don't have those patience yet. I got a 22-year-old daughter, 23, 19, and a 16-year-old. I want to fix the problem now, and I know that's maybe a male thing, control and fix. But I have a fear, like I say something like that, and they're never gonna come back and talk. They're just gonna forget about it, and days go by.
Enrique, I really appreciate that transparency, and you're right. That is a testosterone thing, and I don't mean to overgeneralize, but testosterone is an action hormone, and it causes you to want to fix things. right? It's one of the reasons why when we have conversations with our wives, our partners, or whatever it is that, sometimes they just want us to listen, but we want to fix it. Like, oh, well, this was going on, didn't do this. And they're like, no, listen, I just want you to just listen to me. And sometimes we'll have a problem doing that because testosterone causes you want to fix things. So I appreciate that honesty, Enrique. I wanted you to just to put a name to it, but I want to challenge you also, like this is your time to grow. This is your time to say, let me give it a day. Let me set myself a reminder. Like if it's not life or death, if they're not going to die within the next 24 hours or 48 hours, like let me set myself a reminder to follow up back with them because that's going to show them something new in you. And you're going to say, hey, listen, I want to follow up on the conversation that we had. Do you want to talk about it? I just want you to know I'm here. I've had to do that for my daughter. And there are things that I said that to her about 2 years ago, and she still hadn't said anything, Enrique. But I always bring it back up. I always say, I'm here whenever you want to have that conversation.
Yeah, that's true patience. I need to work on that one.
Yeah. And so that's hard to do. Let's do another one. What about if he gets defensive when corrected? Like a common response could be, don't talk back to me. How does it feel to try this on? I'm not against you. Let's just slow this down. I'm not against you. Let's just slow this down. Because let me give you another free fact. How many of you know the age at which young folks, or we as humans, move from an emotional space to a logical space? Rebecca says 24. Anybody else have any guess? 30, 22,
25 to 30.
25 to 30. I'm going to accept that range. A specific number is 26, but I'm going to go 25 to 30. And let me tell you, that's when you move from an emotive space to a more logical space. That's when road rage is supposed to end, right? Some of us may be still guilty of that, but I'm going to bring it home to you. It's the reason why rental car companies set their age at age 26 or 25 to be able to rent a car because they assume that you are less emotive and you will engage in less road rage and you won't be messing their cars up if someone cuts you off or someone throws you the bird. So when you think about that, and Enrique, when I think about that, that's how I have the objectivity, and that's how I get the patience to just have the conversation. I'm like they're really not emotively formed right now, fully. And the things that matter to them at 23 is not going to matter to them at 26 or 20, 27, 28. Let me guide the conversation. And does it always feel good? No, it does not. I told you how I was raised. So it does not always feel good, but what I can tell you is that I can testify and I can say that it has been one of the best responses, one of the best postures I've taken with my kids in my life. In my life. So I want you to take a moment and I want you to drop in the chat one response that you would change this week. Given our conversation tonight, what is one thing that you're going to try to do different this week? And listen, Enrique, I talked about setting reminders. You may have to do something like that. I am not the best person to follow up. Like I'm probably the worst friend you could have because I don't like call you every 2 days and 3 days. I always tell people my life and my schedule is disrespectful. And it's not that I don't care or love you. I just don't have the time to call you every 3 days and be on the phone with you for 3 hours. Like that's not me, right? Text me, I'll hit you back real quick and roll on. But guess what I do, Enrique? Every month, On Sunday, the third Sunday of every month, I have on my calendar, reach out to your friends. And it reminds me just to send a quick text, hey, thinking about you. Hey, what's going on? What's up? What's up? And it's because I care. It's because I know who I am and how I operate. It's not because I'm being inauthentic or not genuine. I just know what I need to do to move myself down the field.
Makes a lot of sense.
Take a moment to slow down before, yeah. Now, how many of you, these things you're talking about that you're going to try for this week, how many of you know this is going to be hard for you? Like, just, you ain't got to put in the chat. You can just do it. You'll do a thumbs up. Like, how many of you know that this may be a little tough? Okay. Like, be honest. Yeah, it's maybe a little tough. Yep. Maybe a little tough. But let me tell you something I tell teachers all the time. When the teachers always try to put things back on kids, I'll ask them one question. Two questions, actually. One, who's the adult? And who's the professional? Like, you've been trained to deal with them. They haven't been trained to deal with you. So I'll say it again. You've been trained to deal with them. You have a tuition bill that shows that, but they haven't been trained to deal with you. Thank you for putting those things in the chat, guys. Let's keep going here. Uh, we're gonna go. So slow down before you control. We're gonna go into another breakout real quick for about 8 minutes. This next activity, listen, is not about practicing presence in real time, right? I'm sorry, it's about practicing presence in real time. We're going to go into a breakout room for about 8 minutes, and one person is going to share a real situation. So, as a group, here's what I want you to do. And I think someone typed it in the chat last time. If you can do the same thing this time, I appreciate it. As a group, I want you to first name what the young person in your life might have been experiencing. Then I want you to practice a different response, like I just did, right? When I said that they weren't responding, withdrawing, and I said, well, you could say, I notice you've been quiet. I'm here when you're ready. So I want you to practice a different response out loud for a particular scenario. So I don't want you to say it in your head. Like, I want you to literally say it out loud because there's power in saying things out loud. You pick what it is. So you're going to think about something that has happened in your life between you and your son, you and your kid, and you're going to share that, and you're going to practice what a different response is. Something may have happened recently. Like some of you guys, some of you have things fresh on your mind right now. Like you know something just happened probably before you jumped on this call, and some of you have to search. But what can you practice differently? So I'm gonna put you back in a group for 8 minutes. One person shares a real situation and the other person listens. And if we have time, then keep switching, right? If you guys are going fast in the group, keep switching, right? But there's power in saying things out loud. What does Jamie say? No playtime because coach has favorites, so I could say he's saving the best. Although to be honest, I think it affects me. Okay, all right. So I'm putting you back in random groups again, for 8 minutes. As a matter of fact, I'm putting you back in the same groups that you were in because you've already started to build those relationships. All right, take a look at the screen and go into your groups.